Welcome to Brownish Parenting with Dr. Amita. Today, I want to talk about building resiliency in families. And so, when we think about resiliency, I want us to think about how that actually happens. So, for many of us, resiliency was forged through necessity. Our parents immigrated here. They dealt with a lot of acculturative stress. They didn't know a lot about parenting. And so we just kind of had to figure it out. We had no choice but to grow stronger. But our children today may not be facing the same challenges that we faced. And so our job is to really help them build that resiliency. And it may not be through hardship, but it may be through a lot of practice. And what does that mean? It means encouraging them to get out of their comfort zones. It's to take on those leadership positions, to speak up in public if that's something that's challenging for them. It could be trying out a new idea that they have, but they're afraid of failing if they try it out. It could be working through a challenge instead of avoiding it. So it takes a lot more than chasing an A, which was seen as successful parenting in the past, but it teaches them something far more valuable. So successful parents share a few factors that are core when we think about mindsets. The first one is the growth mindset because they see mistakes as lessons. They don't want children to feel bad for making those mistakes. They actually celebrate them. The next one would be flexibility and adaptability. They are adjusting as kids are growing. They're showing them that when things don't go according to plan, that they are going to pivot and they're going to figure it out because everything is figure outable. They also model empathy and emotional intelligence. They are active listeners. They can have a very steady presence because we know emotions are contagious. And so we don't necessarily want to rile our children up, but we want to model being calm, even when we might be hearing something that we don't necessarily want to hear. And then we provide that long-term perspective for them in raising kind and responsible children and children that are not just rule followers that grow up to become adult rule followers. So we want to really teach them critical thinking skills, like how is this impacting more marginalized or vulnerable populations? What else can we do differently? And we also want to show consistency with compassion. So helping them with that structure and providing them with that warmth. So giving them a structure so that they can get out of their comfort zone, they can try these new things, and being there, right, for them as they have those setbacks. So above all, I also want to say that modeling is probably the most important, where parents are modeling for their children that they're making mistakes, that they're operating from a growth mindset, that they are having setbacks, they are using their flexibility and adaptability to figure things out when it's not working out for them. And they are really modeling their emotions when they get frustrated, when they get overwhelmed. They are narrating that. They're telling their children that, hey, this didn't go the way I wanted it to. Let me figure out what I need to do next. Because they're going to see that magic that shows up when they try something new and really step out of their comfort zone. So, this is something where we are not just raising children to do well in school, but we are raising them to be humans who can thrive in their world, in their life. They can believe in their dreams, and they know that they don't have to chase them alone. So today I invite you and I want you to reflect and to think about what risk or challenge will you encourage your child to take this week? And it should be something that is out of their comfort zone and something that is difficult for them, but you are going to be there for them and you're going to help them with that. And I'd love to introduce you to our guest today, Sipra Roy. She is the founder of Shift Society, a growth and marketing leader, a working mom, a storyteller, and someone who has built a life of resilience, courage, and community. All right, Shipra, I am so excited to have you on. For those who don't know, Shipra is also my cousin. And so I have learned a lot from her throughout the years. And I'm still learning more about her life, like through some of the posts that you've recently written on LinkedIn, which we'll get into. But I'm just so excited to have you on with us today. And so I'd love to just start with your story. If you could just tell us a little bit about your journey and um, through childhood and to kind of where you are today, if you could tell us in a nutshell.
Yeah. First, I wanted to say I'm so excited to be here too. You've been a huge inspiration to me too throughout
Oh,
my life. So it's so
yeah.
cool to see how our journeys and paths are crossing
Yeah.
even now. So yeah, I can kind of start, I'll go way back to the
Yeah.
early days, but kind of what has really shaped my journey and how it brought me to where I am today. But it
Hmm.
really just started, I think being the eldest daughter, child of immigrants,
Hmm.
kind of first generation Indian American growing up in St. Louis, Missouri, which is not a very diverse place.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's where I learned, my whole life. I talk a lot about how I learned to belong
Hmm.
and prove myself in spaces where I've been the only one that looks like me. And that
Yeah.
was just learned from such a young age from my
Hmm.
environment and upbringing. And it's also where I learned to hide a lot about
Yeah.
who I really was because I
Hmm.
wanted to fit in. And I even learned that from my parents, from, as they came as immigrants and wanting to come here. And, it's funny, they watched movies and we kind of like celebrated Christmas in the way that they
Yeah.
watched it in the movies. And we'd have like a janky Christmas tree and like kind of trying to part of immigration and emulating
Yeah,
to
and like assimilating, right, into
exactly
the
assimilating
mainstream
to the
dominant culture. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I learned that at such an early age, and I didn't
Yeah.
even realize that I was doing that until like now almost. Like all this
Hmm.
time I've been just kind of hiding those parts of me to really just fit in and make sure that I felt safe and that I belonged in these spaces where sometimes your differences could make you feel left out. And especially as a kid, like people experience that like
Yeah.
on the playground or wherever. Like I was often made fun of for my name. People used to call me Squanto. Like they asked me what Native
Yeah.
American tribe um
Yeah. Oh my
I was
goodness.
from.
Yeah.
And so you learn to just hide parts of you. And that can be like in so many different ways, the way that you dress, the way that you speak, the way that you color your hair, the way, everything. So that definitely has a very big influence. And part of assimilation is just like, yeah, fitting in and doing everything you can and then overachieving to like
Hmm.
make people see like I belong here. I am,
Yeah.
you know, um a high achiever. I was the number one on my tennis team. I was national spelling bee champ. I was number one on my track team all 4 years of high school. Like just
Wow.
really trying to
Yeah.
prove that I belong here, that my achievements, that even if I'm different, my achievements make me feel like I belong. I
Yeah.
think that was a huge part of my story, as well as kind of that immigrant journey when they leave. Our parents left their village, their systems, their comfort
Hmm.
from their home and to develop and kind of chase a better life and a better life for their kids.
Yeah.
And that's really hard. I don't think I appreciated or really realized just
Yeah.
how hard that is. Um, and I also had a mom like who had a severe mental illness and wasn't able to take care of us in the way,
Hmm.
that people can, like when they
Yeah.
have that. So I stepped in to leadership roles really early in my life, kind of when my sister
Yeah.
was born, when I was 8 years old.
Hmm.
I really kind of learned how you can either accept challenges in your life and step up and learn how to handle
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
or you can take, a different path. I don't know exactly what led me to just be like, this is my responsibility.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure out how to take care of this
Hmm.
baby. I'm going to change diapers. I'm going to wake up at night. I'm going to help my family. I'm going to show up in the way that I
Wow.
can.
Yeah.
Um,
I know I was going to ask you that, like, how do you have that, right? Like, how do you know which way you're going to approach that situation? And
I think it's just a choice. Like you
yeah.
kind of have to choose.
Hmm.
I'm going to learn this. I'm
Yeah.
going to figure it out.
Hmm.
And it's not an option. I think like at a young age, it didn't feel like it was an option for me. And I think that's
Yeah.
carried through for my whole
Hmm.
life that
Yeah.
whatever difficult situations that I face and it also teaches you that once you do something really hard, it teaches you
Yeah.
that I can do hard things. And that's
Yeah.
just carried throughout my
Yeah.
whole life. Like everything that I've done has said, okay, I did that. And that was very hard. So that now this thing is like really easy because I've
Yeah.
already done all these other hard things. And so
Uh-huh.
that's something I teach or practice, like even to my own kids or
Yeah.
employees or people on my team, is that you may not have done this before, but there's lots of people who have, and there's so many resources, especially in today's age. Like we didn't have Google and ChatGPT. Like I literally had like I remember we had all these encyclopedias,
Oh
and I would open
yeah.
up really
Yeah.
old school encyclopedias and like read and learn how to do stuff through like
Yeah.
or just ask people. And so I
Mhm.
think that also is like a big was a big part of my formation and journey. Kind of, yeah, the immigrant story, um, growing up in places where no one looks like you and learning how to kind of assimilate and evolve
Yeah.
and prove that you belong, as well as kind of like, yeah, stepping into roles before you're ready and just learning as you go and trying not to
Yeah.
be like everything can't always be perfect. I think that was also
Yeah.
something I've kind of like struggled or continued for many years to overcome because we can get
Yeah.
stuck through perfection, people pleasing,
Hmm.
achievement. Yeah, but we can
And
get
yeah,
to
I guess
yeah.
do you feel like having this sort of non-traditional upbringing also like helped you? Like you kind of talked about getting through these challenges and then seeing you could do it and then continuing on. So when you step into roles like in your, work life, do you feel like that also as a woman, being in the field that you're in and taking on leadership roles, how do you
It
think?
totally did
Yeah,
because I was
yeah,
so comfortable with I've always been the only one in so many different situations of the only woman, the only Indian, the only,
yeah.
that so I feel like I just learned that that's
Yeah.
okay. And I figured it out, and that gave me confidence to be
Mhm.
the only working mom in leadership in a lot of my companies, the only
Yeah.
woman, the only Indian woman. Like I think I learned to hold my own because I
Yeah.
had to do it for so many years.
Hmm. And
And
can
I
you
think
talk
a
about
lot
some of
about,
your can you just talk about some of your roles because we didn't go over
oh
that yet.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I had a kind of non-traditional
Hmm.
career path. Um, I studied accounting and Spanish in undergrad. I started
Yeah.
off national business major
Uh-huh.
because I love traveling and languages, but then people were like, "What job is that?" So I took the safe path. I went to accounting. I was going to go
Hmm.
be a CPA and do this
Oh
whole
wow.
CPA
Yeah.
exam. And then I did my first internship in San Francisco for an accounting firm at
Yeah.
KNBR Radio at the time. And I I was like, this is really boring.
Hmm.
Um, and then I just kind of, but that was my skill set. And I just kind of like
Yeah.
landed opportunities and I never say no. I think
Hmm.
because of the challenges that I went through, I just have learned I don't ever say no to challenges. I actually am
Yeah.
excited and
Uh-huh.
it kind of gets like an adrenaline rush from like
Okay. Yeah.
taking on
Yeah.
uncomfortable things. That's
Uh-huh.
just kind of so I then ended up working for an accounting firm in Shanghai, China,
Wow.
which I just found through messaging people on
Uh,
LinkedIn and networking at in-person events like the American Chamber of Commerce in Shanghai. And I just met people. I made my own business cards. I was like
yeah.
22 years old, but I just
Yeah.
figured it out. And I got a job, but I couldn't do accounting work in Chinese, in Mandarin. So
Okay.
that's how I kind of got into marketing.
Hmm.
And then I decided, oh, I really like marketing. It's a good blend of the numerical side, analytical side that I
Hmm.
learned through accounting, but it allows me to be more creative as well. So I
Yeah.
really blended those skill sets. And I decided to go back and get my master's in marketing.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then I um, landed my first job in marketing at a
Hmm.
marketing agency and spent a few years kind of doing search engine marketing. Meanwhile, I kept applying to like my dream companies, Google, Facebook,
Yeah.
Meta, Twitter.
Uh-huh.
I must have applied like 50, 60 times to
Wow.
different roles, and
Yeah.
I never got them.
Uh-huh.
And then I just kept working at the marketing agencies.
Yeah.
One day, a recruiter messaged me on
Hmm.
LinkedIn
Hmm.
from Twitter, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's happening! I didn't apply this time."
Yeah.
And um, yeah, I got that job.
Yeah.
It's that like probably 6 years later after I applied like 100 times to all these jobs at the
Yeah.
big tech companies.
Wow.
And I worked there for almost 4 years. It was
Uh-huh.
like, one of my dream jobs. It was amazing
Yeah.
experience. I learned a ton, grew as a marketer, and then I got exposed to the startup world, the tech scene of in kind of
Yeah.
the heyday of San Francisco. Everything was booming, and
Uh-huh.
just made a lot of connections. And a lot of my career success has been because of relationships and connections. And
Oh, wow.
just
Yeah.
I haven't applied for a job since 2013.
Oh,
I've just
wow.
been recruited
Yeah.
the last several years by because just maintaining connections and relationships with people. Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I spent another 5, 7 years working at startups, leading growth and marketing
Hmm.
for several startups in the grocery delivery space, in the fintech space,
Yeah.
influencer space, kind of all over the place, and
Yeah.
helped a lot of companies grow millions of dollars in revenue. And then I
Uh-huh.
realized, hey, I think I can do this for myself. Why don't I try?
Yeah.
And that's where I am
That's
today.
great. Yeah, I was gonna say I'd love to move into, you're chasing your dreams, overcoming all these obstacles, using the whole yes and going with the flow, going through accounting, going through marketing, now starting, this on your own, this modern day village. So Shift Society. I'd love to hear more about how you got started with that, but also like before you do that, I'd also like to learn a little bit about when you were in these roles, right? In San Francisco in the tech field, how was it balancing like motherhood with work life and I know like some people just try not to bring their kids into like their work life or talk about it. And I know one of the things you've always said is I'm not here to be perfect, I'm here to be real. And so I'd love to learn about maybe
Mm.
were you even educating others on what it's like to be a working mom since there weren't very many on your team at that time?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
It was so incredibly hard.
Yeah.
I, my son is 8 years old. I tried to make it work for 8 years.
Yeah.
And I'm a systems person. I'm a spreadsheet person. I am like
Hmm.
very organized. I do all the tools, apps, templates, this, that.
Yeah.
I, even with all of that,
Uh-huh.
I couldn't like make it work. I couldn't figure it out. I kept hacking and thinking maybe if I try this calendar system or if I do this app or I do this, like just like I'm kind of like that's kind of my personality. I hack everything. I think I try to
Yeah.
find a solution to everything. I say
Yeah.
no. I never like to say no to a challenge, and so that's why
Yeah.
I kept going and
And what were
going.
you trying to hack? Were you trying to hack like more time or
I
more
was trying to
like,
hack more time. How
yeah.
do I get more hours
And
in the
probably
day?
energy, right? Because like work is so draining. How do you also hack time and your own energy to be able to
Totally.
be present for your kids? Yeah.
Yeah, and I wasn't present.
Hmm.
And when I was in the Bay Area, I would, you know, try to wake up at 5 in the morning so that I could get my workout in. And then babies wake up at all kinds of times. So sometimes they would wake up when I'm getting ready to go to my workout. And then,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, no workout today. We're gonna pivot. And then, I had this moment where we dropped off my son at daycare like six. The daycare opened at 6:30 in the morning,
Wow.
right? Until
Yeah.
6:30
Yeah.
p.m. Those are
Yeah. Oh, those were the hours. Yeah.
those are the hours in the Bay Area for childcare. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is great. These hours are great. They allow me to work. And then I was like, what am I doing? Dropping my kid off at 6:30 in the morning and picking them up after I commuting for 3 hours. I'm completely exhausted. I haven't done anything for myself. I didn't work out. I sat on the train.
Yeah.
I picked up my son barely running to pick him up from the daycare at
Hmm.
5:30 or 6. Then you're figuring out dinner and it just felt impossible. And it
Yeah.
felt like, why did I have kids to outsource them the entire day? And
Hmm.
I said, this cannot be like
Yeah.
how I raise my kids, and this cannot be my life. And
Yeah.
I didn't really know how to hack it at that time. I
Yeah.
tried so many things. I went down to like only commuting 2 days a week
Hmm.
and then working from home, and that helped quite a bit. But there's still so many demands, even with working from home and taking out. I
Yeah.
thought if I take out the commute, then I'm going to gain 3 hours. But
Yeah.
you always find things to fill those hours if you're not intentional with
Hmm.
your time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
And
interesting.
probably was it hard to even do that? Like, was it hard for you to go to your team and ask them? This was
Yes,
pre-COVID, right? And it was like
it
when
was
people were
so
not working.
hard.
Yeah.
And at that time, Twitter didn't have like a full remote policy. So
Yeah.
then you're kind of asking for an exception. And then other people are like, why is she getting that? And then why is
Yes.
she leaving at 3:45, not knowing that I am getting on the train
Yeah. Yeah.
at 3:45 so that I can get to pick up my son by 5:30 so I don't get charged $10 a minute or whatever it
Oh
is
yeah, it was
for
yeah.
being
Yeah,
for
yeah.
being late.
Hmm.
But the perceptions, I think a lot of you talked about like education and perceptions and changing.
Yeah.
One thing that I learned, I think I saw it from another mother's
Hmm.
calendar, is I started putting everything on my calendar, on my
Yeah.
work calendar.
Okay.
I put my pumping and breastfeeding time on my
Nice.
calendar.
Yeah.
I put that I'm commuting to pick up my child. I'm having dinner with my family to try and
Like
set
build
boundaries
awareness or
and
yeah.
build
Yeah.
awareness.
Yeah.
But I think that it's interesting because even when you do that, people
Yeah.
still will try to book over it, or they'll still kind of say,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, she's leaving at 3:30. I don't get to leave at 3:30 because I don't have
Hmm.
kids." It's kind of,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
everyone's always talking about fairness and
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
but it's yeah. So then I had a horrible life-threatening miscarriage.
Hmm.
Uh, and that was a huge wake-up call for me. I left
Yeah.
my dream job at Twitter so
Hmm.
that, and I took a fully remote job that I didn't have to commute,
Yeah.
at a small startup.
Hmm.
But it took sacrifice, it took leaving my dream job, it
Yeah.
took kind of, and that's kind of how I landed in the startup world because they give you a lot of flexibility because
Yeah.
startup, you can work remote. But
Hmm.
with
But you're working a
startup,
lot.
but then I
Yeah.
traded that for like really long hours,
Yeah.
like kind
Yeah.
of the expectation that you work 60, 70 hours a week.
Hmm.
Again, being the only mom and woman,
Yeah.
a lot of the, other leaders, they have stay-at-home partners who are at home that are supporting
Yeah.
their ability to work.
Yeah.
And we didn't have that. We're a dual working household. And
Uh-huh.
so again, back to hacking, I went to build my own village of
Hmm.
support. And that's been neighbors, that's been nannies, that's been hiring people to help me cook, that's been
Yeah.
hiring all kinds of things, but not to try not outsource my kids because I wanted to be there to pick up my kids. So I said,
Yeah.
maybe I can outsource my laundry, or maybe
I love that. I love that. The hacks continue.
and I did. I
Yeah.
found, local high
Yeah.
school girls, they want to make
Uh-huh.
money, do laundry,
Yeah.
so kind of like this cool thing that has just evolved over the last 8 years of like
Yeah.
and things I found that work and things that didn't. And me choosing, like, I want to be there for my kids. I don't want to outsource the moments that are the best with them. Like when I pick
Yeah.
them up from school is when they talk to me, even if it's for
Yeah.
those, 10 minutes of that
Mhm.
drive. So if I hire someone else to pick them up, then I'm missing
That's so
those moments.
true. Timing is everything with kids, right? Like when they're
And
ready
I
to
was like,
talk, yeah, you have to be there.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, well, if I don't want to outsource that, then what can I outsource? So I outsourced,
Uh-huh.
like I said, laundry, cooking, meal prep.
Yeah.
But it's funny now, I'm kind of like, I love cooking. I outsource things that I
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
And so I just started to question. I'm a
Uh-huh.
very, I don't know, the word is like a contrarian. I kind of ask a lot of questions and
Yeah. Hmm.
I kind of ask, why is it like this? Or
Mm.
I just ask a lot
Yeah.
of questions.
Hmm.
And then it makes me think, well, why am I outsourcing something that I love?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Uh-huh.
And that's what led me to try this path of my own. And if I, own my own path and I'm not beholden to like
Yeah.
society or, the way that we are meant to operate,
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I can get into that.
And you're
Sure.
going, yeah, so you're going more inner, like you're going towards what motivates you and what sparks joy in you, like your
Yes.
children and cooking.
Yes.
And when you were thinking through this idea of shift society, what are you looking to create for others by
Hmm.
having this community that you kind of talked about, like you've built for yourself, but what are you seeing as maybe themes that are coming up as you talk to other people that
Hmm.
are looking for something like this?
Yeah, I first thought of the idea.
Hmm.
Actually, my husband and I were sitting on a balcony in our apartment in Pleasanton,
Yeah.
California, and my son was sleeping. Baby, he was a baby,
Uh,
and we were talking about community and village and this concept of what happened
yeah.
to our villages. And we talked about it like 6 or 7 years ago, and I just kept
Hmm.
thinking about where is the village? You know?
Yeah. The village our parents grew up in, and now our families are all over the place, right? It's like that's what they say. They're geographically dispersed. We don't have family living near us anymore like we used to. Yeah.
Hmm. So I thought about I just kept thinking, and I mentioned, I've been hacking and figuring out how
Yeah.
can I create my own village. And um, I heard, I hear the same from so many people, both
Yeah.
men, women, fathers, and mothers.
Uh-huh.
It's not unique. It is so present everywhere in our society.
Hmm.
So many people are burnt out, they're struggling, they're trying to take everything on that wasn't meant to
Yeah.
be taken on by just two parents or one
Hmm.
parent. It's too much. Just no one was
Yeah.
meant to raise kids this way or
Yeah,
work this
no.
way
Hmm.
or and even live life this way. I think
Yeah.
that was like I mentioned my wake up call was what am I doing? Like
Yeah.
what but it took I got a lot of help. I had a lot of
Uh-huh.
coaches. I did a lot of, like you mentioned, inner work. I did a lot of
Yeah.
inner child work. I did a lot of breath work. I did a lot of somatic body work. I did
Wow.
like a lot of coaching and a lot of
Yeah.
help. It,
Wow.
um, that was my transformation is like I
Hmm.
spent my whole life like fighting and saying I can do everything and I can do everything by myself. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm like this overachieving, like,
Yeah,
handle
yeah.
everything. But I think that's like false. I think
Yeah.
that is where we
Hmm.
struggle by not asking for help. And that's what led me. I said, I think more people like need to feel comfortable
Yeah.
like asking for help
Yeah.
and knowing that nobody gets anywhere alone and
Yeah.
all need support. And I want to provide that support to people. And I want to use my resilience, all the things that I've overcome.
Yeah.
It's taught me a lot of how to chase dreams, how to get what you want and never give up. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't happen alone. I think that is
Hmm.
like idea around this village. It doesn't happen alone. I am bringing like all these amazing coaches that have helped me
Yeah.
into this village, along with just the village itself creates support. It helps you feel
Yeah.
seen. We learn, like I've learned so much from you, with your kids being a little bit older. Like I've
Yeah.
learned that's the village, right? Like I learned from
Yeah.
experience and you can learn
Yeah.
from mine and we all learn from each other. So it's really
Yeah.
trying to recreate that for people so they don't
Yeah.
feel alone.
And I
Yeah.
think that's like the most important thing you said, right? Like we feel alone when we feel like we're not able to be vulnerable and to share. And the reason we've been able to like learn from one another is because we've shared our struggles with one another, right? And a
Mhm.
lot of times parents have this guard because they feel like, oh, well, everyone else has it together. Like I need to also have it together and not talk about all my struggles. And so I think part of this is like bringing people together that want to be super vulnerable with each other to be able to open the doors for all these other possibilities. And like you said, like you had to kind of hit rock bottom. Like you had
Mhm.
to go through that experience at Twitter with your life-threatening miscarriage to then be like, hey, I got to do something different. Then
Mhm.
maybe led you down in this inner work and all the coaches that you're now bringing to individuals that are looking for something like this, which is so needed in our community today. It's something that we just don't have. Yeah.
Totally. And talking about our problems, I think you'll find if you follow me on LinkedIn or Instagram, I
Yeah.
share pretty raw, vulnerable things that are not comfortable for me to share at all. I'm actually
Yeah.
pretty private, like introvert, shy person. Um, but part of that journey for myself, part of it was for myself
Yeah.
because especially with social media and
Hmm.
like this keeping up with the Joneses, and we're like always trying to project this perfection
Yeah.
and image of perfection. And I hate that. Like, I
Yeah.
think that that causes so much
Uh-huh.
anxiety and loneliness and depression in our society. I don't
Yeah.
want that for my kids. I don't want people to see the highlight reel only.
Mm.
Like, none of us have perfect lives.
Yeah.
All of us are struggling in different ways. And I'm sharing that so that people can see that they're not alone. Even if it's so
Yeah.
hard for me to share it, I know I have
Yeah.
gotten so many messages from so many people for like, thank you so much for sharing that. Like, I have
Hmm.
felt like I'm crazy because I'm over here experiencing
Yeah.
this thing by myself, thinking that nobody else is experiencing all these things that literally everyone is experiencing. Like,
Yes.
and it's so like the moment you open up, other people
Yeah.
feel like they can open up or they feel seen. And so much of this is the moment you feel seen, it's part of like the healing and supportive journey. Like, if you're
Hmm.
like, if you stop feeling that you're alone in this, I think that is like a huge, already a huge like weight taken off your shoulders that like
Yeah.
other people like so much struggles, especially when we're just chasing financial wealth. I've been really, a
Yeah.
lot of what we talk about in Shift Society too is like redefining success and
Yeah.
evaluating wealth in different ways. We've been
Hmm.
conditioned to chase monetary and financial wealth and like external achievements. And I think that can lead to like a lack of fulfillment and joy
Yeah.
in like our day-to-day
No,
lives.
absolutely. I think that's so true to really think about. Yeah, there's like, we need money to live and for our
Yeah.
basic needs. So there is like a certain amount we need. But then
Yes.
after that, right, it's all about like what you feel on the inside. So they have like it's like a Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And in the
Hmm.
bottom, it's like the physical needs that you need, but then there's psychological to then reach your full potential. And I think it's so true. I remember taking a happiness class at Yale, and they talked a lot
Hmm.
about, right? Like financial affluence, like money affluence and time
Hmm.
affluence. And
Hmm.
having that time to spend on the things that you love for that fulfillment, which I think the more we talk and to our kids about that, the more we show them that, hey, this is what we've chosen, like, and intentionally talk about it, which I think is
Hmm.
great that you're like bringing this up with parents so that they can really parent from the inside out. They can think about themselves and they can think about what they want to achieve, what their version of success is, and then like articulate that and show it as a model, like by being part of your village, by being part of the conversations that you're having with everyone around this. Because I think like, that you just talked about, that was one conversation. I'm sure there's more conversations that are happening right now
Oh,
about,
totally.
right? Like what else do you feel like is coming up in your community?
I mean, so many conversations.
Yeah.
I think so there's this, I've been reading this book and there's a great quiz that comes with it, The Five Types of Wealth by Sahil Bloom.
Oh,
And he talks about kind of measuring your wealth in more than, so it's like financial, social, health,
I
wealth,
love it.
like
Yeah.
time wealth.
Uh-huh.
And when you take this quiz, it's like very eye-opening because
Yeah.
I took it kind of, for a lot of my years, my
Hmm.
financial wealth was very high and like green. And then
Yeah.
you look at the other areas and you see how they're orange or they're red.
Yeah.
And then I took it again recently
Yeah.
as a sort of like trying to build a business that's more sustainable and
Uh-huh.
around the things that bring me joy and helping others and fulfillment and like your dharma and
Yeah.
your calling. And
Oh, I
I'm
love that. Yeah.
noticing my financial health for the first time in so many years is like the
Uh-huh.
lowest, the lowest thing, but everything else is green.
Oh, that's
And it's
great. Yeah.
and so we talk a lot about that because you think when you're
Uh-huh.
chasing financial wealth or whatever, it's like maybe my marriage is struggling, or maybe I'm not being present with my kids, or my physical health is
Yeah.
struggling. And so I think like reframing your whole success
Uh-huh.
around all of those is
Yeah.
really a powerful topic that is coming up for people because you're kind of like, oh, I can have all this money, I can have all these achievements, but everything else is red. Like,
Yeah.
is that a good life? And is that a good model that I want to teach my
Yeah.
kids?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm already noticing like in just like a few months, I'm noticing massive differences in myself and in my kids and in my whole like
Yeah.
just life because my kids are like doing this kindness thing, like do random acts of kindness every week. And it's like so beautiful. They're just doing it because I'm talking about, and now my work is about kindness and
Yeah.
my calling.
Wait, I
And
saw
so,
your LinkedIn post this morning about the tomato plants that you've grown, and they took
yeah.
it and they said from our garden to your table, right? And they gave everyone, they made a note and they gave everyone tomatoes from your garden.
Yeah, it's so sweet.
Yeah.
And they just start coming up with these ideas
Yeah.
because now, like you said, I didn't talk a lot about my work with
Yeah.
them. And now I talk about every day.
Yeah.
My son reads my posts sometimes, like before I post them. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll be nervous to post it and he'll be like, Mom, what if one person likes it? And I'm like, that's such an astute, wise,
Yes.
for such a little kid to say. But
I have that key and quote here, and it said, "What if it helps one person, Mom?" Because you were worried about, right? Like, is it too
yes,
risky? Like, is this okay for my career? And I mean, people do think that. People feel like they can't say how they actually feel because they're not sure what that looks like. And I
totally.
love that you were able to really be courageous enough to be able to share what's really happening.
And
Yeah,
it's so scary.
yeah.
It's
It's super
I think that's the
scary.
idea. It's
Yeah,
super scary. Every time I do it, I'm scared. And I
yeah,
think that's the lesson here too. And my kids are learning too. You can be scared and you can still do things and you can still show
yeah,
up and you can
yeah.
still push yourself. I'm like, I've done really hard things, and it's funny that this is one of the hardest things that I've done to show up vulnerably.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I've done way harder things than this. Why does this feel so hard?
Yeah, yeah. And
You
I mean,
know?
people see it though. It's like, people see it and they really appreciate. I will say me here, like my husband, I remember he saw your post about you were in a green dress and you were super dressed up. You look beautiful. And you were like, this is not how I was feeling on the inside. This is what was
Mm-hmm.
going on with me inside. And he was
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, that was so real and authentic and raw. And he was just like, he resonated with it because it's like sometimes you just have to put on this mask and this face, but you're not feeling that way inside. And to be able to have someone else that's brave enough to say it and especially like for women, like we do talk about this stuff, but for men, they don't. And so for them to
Mm-hmm.
have a model of somebody that's doing this, and on LinkedIn, right? Where you wouldn't, maybe you'd see it on Instagram or like
Yes.
Facebook, but this is on LinkedIn. So
Yeah, that's why it's
yeah,
even harder because I
yeah,
think that's where I had the biggest mask throughout my
uh-huh,
life, through anything with external or professional achievement. And because I was operating in pretty male dominant spaces,
yeah,
I also have leaned most of my life, even through sports and athletics,
yeah,
I've been pretty like not masculine, but a
mhm,
little bit like sort of
yeah,
that is what I've embodied.
hmm,
Because your men are taught to not be vulnerable.
yeah,
Vulnerability is weak. We
hmm,
always must be strong. And these are the same things I have learned
hmm,
my entire life. I must always be strong. I can
hmm,
always do hard things. I never say no. I never cry. I never say
hmm.
that I'm sad or that I'm this. And so
Yeah.
I learned to not feel, I learned to always be strong,
Hmm.
but that shows up in lots of other ways in your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And what I'm noticing, the more authentic, the more vulnerable that I am, the softer and more nicer I'm being because
Yeah.
because I'm like because I'm finally letting myself be myself. And
Yeah.
that is creating like a magnetic sort of energy because
Mm.
people want to feel that. They're like, "Oh, she's being herself, so I can be myself." And then you kind of like a
Yeah.
sigh, like, "Oh,
Wow.
like
Yeah.
I can
Well, it's
breathe
like
again."
it's
Yeah,
almost like healing your inner child, right? Like all these like
it
wounds
is.
that
And that's
you
what I
have
did.
kept band-aided up and not like let it really kind of come out and yeah, heal. Really.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I worked with an amazing coach who does inner child work, inner
Uh-huh.
trauma, and that's how, because a lot of things I learned, like Shipra, it's not safe to be vulnerable. Shipra, it's not safe to be weak.
Mm.
Shipra, you must always be strong.
Yeah.
And so we kind of went back there and reframed it all. It's like, I'm allowed to be vulnerable and people will still love me.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to be soft and I can
Mhm.
still be powerful.
I
Like, I think
love
there's a
that.
lot of,
Yeah.
I'm allowed
Yeah.
to be imperfect
Uh-huh.
and people will still, I can still have an amazing career in life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, I hope my hope is that more people can feel like they can be themselves
Yeah.
because hiding yourself, like we have one
Mhm.
life, why hide?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah.
And how do you, is there anything that, any kind of advice you would give to people that want to do this, but it's like still hard for them? Like they're so conditioned in that way. So even when it's super hard, how do we show up for ourselves? How do we be true to ourselves and
hmm
not perform?
I have so much advice there. I think just at the highest level, find people who support you and love you no matter what.
Yeah.
Number one, because you need support,
Mm.
or you'll feel alone, and
Yeah.
that never feels good. And two, just start practicing. Give
Mhm.
yourself little challenges. They can be small,
Okay.
um, so that you feel I can overcome and I can do little hard things, like tiny
Yeah.
things even in your
Hmm.
life. Like if I even did it with my son. He's not a big hiker. I'm like, we're gonna hike every week.
Yeah.
And he did a few hikes and he was
Uh,
like, oh, the first one he struggled, he didn't want to do it,
yeah.
and then the second one I was like, oh, that was easy. So it's just teaching
Oh, yeah, that's
teaching
great. Yeah.
yourself and like little things
Yeah.
doesn't have to start with the most courageous
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that's kind of the advice I would give there. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And then just as we're coming to an end, I also wanted to talk a little bit about the interview series you built, The Stories That Built Us, and what that's all about.
Yeah, so that's been another huge part of my journey is looking
Mhm.
for inspiration in others who
Yeah.
inspire me to be courageous.
Hmm.
And so I want to bring those stories to people to show you that um, what I was just saying, like that you can do hard things,
Yeah.
that the highlight reel was a journey. The people that you look up to and the people that are inspiring you,
Yeah.
I want you to see their whole story because
Yeah.
none of this
Love it. Yeah.
happened
Uh-huh.
without struggle, without
Yeah.
hardship, without being courageous, without doing the hard thing. And so
Hmm.
the idea is to show people like how the people that you look up to and admire, or people
Yeah.
that went after their dreams, and what makes them
Yeah.
different than us. Like why were they, I have one coming up from a friend who is an amazing, like world-renowned concert pianist.
Oh, wow.
And she always believed in herself that she's always going to be a pianist. But
Yeah.
why are some of us like that? And why are some of us? So really to just
Yeah.
show us and be inspired by others' journeys.
Yeah.
Is the goal. Yeah.
I love that. I can't
Yeah.
thank you enough for sharing your story, creating the stories that built us, also Shift Society. I'd love to like have our listeners be able to contact you afterwards, join, if you could talk about how they can join Shift Society, where they can find stories that built us, and then also just connect with you.
Yeah, right now we're building. You can follow us on Instagram at We Are Shift Society, or
Okay.
follow me personally on LinkedIn as well as our Shift Society on LinkedIn.
Uh-huh.
That's the best way to kind of learn more and start engaging and kind of learn about the community and the coaching and the upcoming cohorts and things that we have coming. So lots of exciting stuff to.
Yeah, awesome. All right. And to our listeners, thanks for being here. Remember, you don't have to be perfect to build a meaningful life. And in Shipra's words, you just have to be real, believe in yourself by practicing the art of self-love and compassion, face your fears, and find others who believe in you and lift you up. You can't do it alone. Thank you so much, Shipra, for being here, sharing your vision with us. We really
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Yeah.